What's going on, everyone? It's Mike, it's John back again. But before we start, I think it's only right and fitting that we talk about two people today, just to start with, and one being Kevin Campbell, whose funeral was today. And again, as we said the first time, we send our love, support, condolences to everyone connected with Kevin Campbell. He he was a gunner that turned into the blue. I saw the little books that they do, and it's a picture of him with an Arsenal lanyard at the Emirates, but the book colour was blue and the words were white. So it was really, really fitting both big clubs there. So sending love to Kevin Campbell and his family. And the other person is Michael Jones, who today has had a memorial permanently put at Bramley Moor following the tragic death, loss of life last year. So again, our love, our prayers, our support always go out to the family of Michael Jones as well. And I know John echoes that. And if there's anything else John wants to add in there, by all means, fire away, pal. But yeah,
I think you've said anything. I think it just epitomises Kevin with the turnout that he had, and obviously with the funeral today as well. The poor lad who lost his life, unfortunately, was an Everton fan building the stadium that he was hoping to go and watch his beloved team play, and unfortunately he lost his life. And I think it's fantastic what Everton have done, so I echo everything you say.
Yeah. On a brighter note, let's talk about a brighter note. The season is now fast approaching. If I'm not mistaken, it's 4 days, really. It's a tough start. We'll be talking about the game tomorrow in the match preview, but we've been linked with some players coming in, which probably won't have an effect on the Brighton game, but may have an effect towards the start of the season. And I want to mention one name to start with, which is Victor Roca. Barcelona, very young, talented centre forward. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I knew too much about him, because that would be a lie, and I would never do that. So obviously, you go on YouTube, you watch the clips, and you see how capable they look like with ball, and how capable they look just in general. And the kid clearly looks talented. My only point to this, John, and you may agree or disagree, I don't think that's what we need right now.
I think we need a centre forward. Whether it's someone of that ilk, someone who is going to come from that league and hopefully try and fit into the Premier League, and it might take him a while, and can't really afford to bring a striker in where it's going to take a while to settle.
Yeah.
The striker we bring in, for me, has to have Premier League experience, ready to hit the ground running, or, maybe someone from abroad can come in and fit straight into Everton and straight into the Premier League. Watching the clips of Victor Roque, I think it would take him a bit of time. The Premier League's a strong league, and the strong defenders who will put a tackle in, and looks a bit on the light side to me, but don't get me wrong, there's definitely a talent there. I think it was 3 goals or 2 goals in 22 appearances, 3 yellow cards, so he'll probably fit right into Everton last season. But I think we probably need someone with a bit more experience to come into this side at the minute, because we spoke many times on here. I think the centre forwards we have at the club won't score enough goals this season for us. So I think we need to bring someone in who can also benefit from the midfielders that we've brought in. I just think someone a bit more well-known, hopefully, someone with a bit of experience. We've been linked with Tammy Abraham, apparently knocked us back. That would be the ideal player for me to come into Everton, knows the Premier League, would hit the ground running, but unfortunately it looks like he's knocked us back. Being linked with a few, and I think that's what you said to me, Michael. We linked with a few players yesterday. I think this is what's happening, because days go by where we don't hear of anything. It's very quiet, not about the takeover, and then all of a sudden we're linked with 3 or 4 players in the space of a couple of hours. So, listen, there's 2 weeks to go till the transfer window slams shut. For me, I know there's a lot of people on social media saying we need a right back, we need a left back. we still need a centre midfielder. I don't agree with that. I think we've got enough midfielders at the club now. For me, it's the striking positions that need addressing as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And look, I'm not saying that this isn't a player that wouldn't excite me, because he would excite me. And again, it's going down this model of young, talented footballers. But I think as of right now, if you're going to spend 25 to 30 million euros or pounds, for me, I think the answer would be, and I know some people disagree with this comment, so look, shoot me down if you want to shoot me down. But I honestly think the answer is somebody like Eddie Nketiah from Arsenal, or trying to get Callum Wilson from Newcastle. I don't think it's a very young, unproven lad. I don't think the pressure put upon him would be fair. And I can semi-understand it if, say, Beto left and you're still having Calvert-Lewin as your number one striker, albeit, we've got our reservations on Calvert-Lewin anyway. But Dice seems to rate him. So I can semi-understand that. You've then got a young Schmidt, you've got a young Rocker, you've got players there that have been growing to the role, will get minutes, blah, 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 blah. However, I just think we need goals. And I think you're more certain to get goals with a player that's played in the Premier League, has that experience, like you rightly say. And for me, I do believe the answers to that are Callum Wilson or Nketiah. As to whether any of them could happen, I don't know. Tammy Abraham was another good shout, John. There's lots of strikers out there that tick that box.
There's strikers out there with proven Premier League experience, which is what we've spoke about a few times on here. And I know from the conversations we've had and the amount of times you've mentioned them on here, that Callum Wilson's someone you really want at the club. And listen, Callum Wilson, Eddie Nketiah, I think Eddie Nketiah goes to Bournemouth to replace Solanke personally. But, if Bournemouth can go in for him and we can get someone like an Nketiah or a Callum Wilson for 25 million quid, then for me, they're no-brainers. 25 million pound for a Premier League striker who's played in the Premier League is buttons these days. They've scored goals. Eddie Nketiah stepped up to the plate when he had to last season, scored a few goals for Arsenal when Jesus was out. Callum Wilson, I think you come out with a comment that he said the average is 1 and 2 or something like that, 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So you bring a Callum Wilson, or especially a Callum Wilson, into the Everton team, I'm more or less sure he would score more goals than the centre forwards we have at the club now. It's not going to cost a lot of money. If Newcastle are willing to do a deal, even include Calvert-Lewin in, I know they were after Calvert-Lewin, it was his wage demands that scuppered that deal. But come to some sort of deal, and if it's a swap with him and a bit of money either way, Callum Wilson, for me, would slot right into the way Everton play with the midfielders we brought in and score goals at the club for me.
Yeah, I agree. Everton have signed a player today, William Tammy from Burton, who will go into the under-23s. Again, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know anything about him, and I'm not going to pretend that. But again, it's a good thing that we're signing young players. He played for Burton in games in the league, so he's got some league experience. So, he's a player that, again, could come in, can do a job, can learn, and maybe can follow the route into the first team, because we've signed players like that before. Grant White came from Carlisle and did really well at Everton. We've had other players, Calvert-Lewin, come from Sheffield United, did really well. John Stones came from Barnsley, come in, done really well. So there's a path with Everton all of a sudden for young players to potentially come through. And when they're looking at players like Harrison Armstrong, it's making it attractive again for young players to finally pick Everton. And that's probably been one of the positives of the summer window for me, to be honest. The youngsters that have either played in pre-season or, have been available to Everton, I'm more positive that we are looking in the right direction in terms of our recruitment. And no one echoes that more than Tim Ibrahima, who we keep going on and on and on about. And you mentioned something to me yesterday. And at first, when you mentioned it to me, I completely threw it out. I went, John, what are you talking about? and you give me a team, and this would also mean another summer signing, who we have been linked with. And I'm going to give you a team, everyone, and the team formation is 4-2-3-1. The team goes as follows: it's Pickford in goal, Mikalenko left back, Tarkowski, Branthwaite or O'Brien, and Coleman, Young, whoever wants to go at right back goes at right back. Or James Garner, because we also know he can play right back. Two centre midfielders would be Tim Ibrahimovic and McTominay, because we've been linked to McTominay. And then the front four would be Dwight McNeil, Lilliman and Dye, Jesper Lundstrom or Jack Harrison, and Calvert-Lewin up front. Now tell me, from this time last season, how that doesn't smell of goals. Because if it's your team, John, you give me that team. I'm not taking any credit for that. That was your idea. And we have been linked with McTominay. We understand that Manchester United may also want Calvert-Lewin. Is that the sort of player you want in our midfield? Is that what we're missing?
I think McTominay would fit right into the mould that Sean Dyche is trying to fit with the midfield. Now, we spoke last week about he wants to play the ball on the floor more and play through the lines and get it forward quicker and play out from the back to the midfield. And Scott McTominay is one of them midfielders, really very capable of picking the ball up from the defence and running forwards with it. But when you've got a midfield like that we spoke about yesterday, that takes pressure off the centre forwards for me, because there's goals there. So all of a sudden, you're not like, well, if we don't score goals up front, where's our goals coming from? Because there's goals there with that midfield that I give you. Now, listen, McTominay is going to be a big ask to get. Fulham have put a bid in for him of £30 million. It's been knocked back by Man United. But as you quite rightly say, if they have been linked with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if there's some sort of deal that can be done with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Scott McTominay coming either way, we still then need a centre forward. We do need a centre forward. But if we're not having to pay over £30 million, which is what Fulham have bid for McTominay, because we've sent Calvert-Lewin the other way, then maybe then a bit of money to go out and get a striker to fit into the mould of that midfield. And for me, that midfield stinks of goals. It stinks of goals. Like that, it smells that bad. I can smell them from my house. It stinks. Right? But
that's because you don't bat enough.
But then you look at the defence, and it looked a bit shaky against Roma. First 60 minutes, it did. They were getting in behind. But then we seemed to tighten it up. So, personally, we've said on here, I think the defence is always going to be okay under a Sean Dyche sort of manager.
Yeah.
England #1 goalkeeper. Got 3 good centre-halves there. Mikalenko, again, more times than not, is solid, isn't he? It's the right back where we'll struggle. But there's goals as well there, Michael. So you're looking at keeping a lot of clean sheets. We had the second best defensive record in the Premier League last season.
In terms of clean sheets.
In terms of clean we had the second best clean sheet record in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So if we can take that into this season, and we could get a Scott McTominay into that midfield with Ndiaye, who I can't wait to see on Saturday, and Tim Ibrahimovic, who I'm excited to see as well. There's goals, but there's also a good chance that we don't concede many goals as well. So that team excites me. Going back to what you said about the young kids we've signed, Everton are coming attractive now to younger players, because what these younger players are doing, the likes of Tim Ibrahimovic from Villa and the kids we've signed today, I forget his name, you've mentioned them. They're looking at Everton now and thinking, well, John Stones went there when he was young, and look where he is now, played for England. Then you look at what Jared Branthwaite's done since he's come at the club. Everton nurtured him, made him into the player he is today. All right, the loan at PSV did help. But young players are looking at Everton now thinking, I tell you what, it's a good place to go if I want to improve my career and push on and become a first team player. So all of a sudden, Everton are bringing these young kids in for next to nothing. So if they become players like John Stones did or Jared Brandwaite has, then you have a saleable asset on your hands, which all of a sudden starts help. I'm not saying we're going to sell them now, but in years to come, we don't find ourselves in the PSR situation again, because we're selling players who we brought in for next to nothing for big money. And that's what a lot of clubs that are run properly do. And the clubs that have done that don't struggle with the PSR financial restrictions that Everton have been under. So these young kids are looking at Everton now thinking, do you know what? That's a good place to go to progress my career, to improve as a player, to push on and try and get first team football, because them players I've just mentioned did. So Everton are all of a sudden attractive to younger players.
Yeah, completely agree. Everton have been linked with two more experienced midfielders as well. Calvin Phillips, and I'm not going to get this name right, but I think his name's Kajeti. Kajeta, I don't know. I don't know anything about him, so I'm not going to talk about him. 25 years old, seems to be fairly talented. Again, plays for Napoli, available for transfer, 10 million quid. But the player that Everton are being heavily linked with, and would not surprise me if Everton signed, is Calvin Phillips. Now, I don't know how I feel about it, and the reason for that is, if you have asked me 4 to 5 weeks ago about Calvin Phillips, I would have said, yeah, sign him. Dyche is the right manager to get the best out of him. But if signing Calvin Phillips stifles how good Tim Ibrahim has been, I don't want to sign
him. We've mentioned Calvin Phillips on here before, because the reason for that is because we've been linked with him for that long and that many times. Apparently, it's a player that Sean Dyche really, really, really likes. I keep thinking back, Michael, and listen, you're not a poor player if you've played for Manchester City. You're not a poor player if you've had England caps. You're not. You know, you're not.
Well, or if you remember, John, sorry to put in, Southgate actually said at this tournament, we miss Calvin Phillips. He actually said that.
Yeah. So the likes of Calvin Phillips would do a job for Everton, because I do think he fits into the way Sean Dyche plays. And if there's any manager out there that can lift Calvin Phillips from how low he is now, because it's pretty obvious he's low. He went to West Ham on loan and he had a shocker, the absolute shocker for the loan period that he was there. Yeah. So I think Everton probably would be the best club for Calvin Phillips at the minute. What worries me is he one of them players who peaked a bit early and had everything, and he had the world at his feet, and he had all the money and the fast cars and the fit birds, and a bit like what Dele Alli, that road he's gone down now. And when I look at how he performed at West Ham, that's what gives me reservations about Everton signing Calvin Phillips. Because if any manager can do it, it's Sean Dyche. But if he can't, it's a waste of a loan, in my opinion. And then again, it's another midfielder where, personally, I think we need to strengthen in other areas than central midfielders.
Yeah, agreed. I also think as well, and again, I don't know if you agree with this, but we have got a central midfielder at the club in James Garner, who we definitely have slightly different opinions on, me and you. And I actually think the fan base did as well, because I rate James Garner. I think he's very good on the ball. I don't think he really goes hiding. I quite like him.
I think there's more of the fan base what you're thinking about James Garner. I do. Yeah. I think it's only a minority that have their reservations about James Garner.
The problem with that, John, is you do tend, and I don't mean to blow smoke up your backside, but you do tend to get it right when it comes to players. I think you could arguably say you got it right on Onana, and I got it wrong. I think you could arguably say you've got it right on some of the wingers we've signed in the past. I think I seem to remember having a conversation about Bernard, Moise Keane. Yeah, that was a good one. But I thought, again, young, talented, hungry, got a bit of an attitude because he wanted to play football, and he's gone on to achieve pretty much nothing. Again, you said that, I didn't. So I always absolutely accept your opinion. I just really like James Garner, and I do think he's a player who can play multiple positions. Would you be prepared to play him at right back?
Well, when you look at the right backs we've got at the club, so Nathan Patterson, for me, hasn't proved to me that he's any good for the Premier League and very injury prone. Yeah. Ashley Young's not getting any younger, so we're not going to get 90 minutes out of him every week. Seamus Coleman in the same position. So if James Garner can go at right back and do a job, because over them three players, he's going to get more minutes in his legs at right back than them three players.
Yeah.
If he can play there and he can prove to me that he's good enough to be right back, then I'd have no problem James Garner playing at right back and not in the middle.
Do you think it stops some of his attributes though? Because one thing you would say James Garner can do is he can pass forward.
But if we're going to bring another midfielder in, i.e. Scott McTominay, then Scott McTominay starts over James Garner for me anyway.
Right.
In my opinion. And I know you said, being right again, I'm not, this isn't me being bigger because I'm not that sort of person, but out of all the players in the past where I've got, don't know, and you've gone, I think he's all right, whatever. Out of all the players, what I will say about James Garner is if there's going to be a player that proves me wrong and I can go, do you know what, Michael, you were right, it's probably going to be James Garner, because my feelings and my thoughts are less about Garner than what they were about Moise Keane and Amadou Onana.
Yeah, the other player that we both got wrong was Mikalenko, because we both said he was a champ, but I actually think I said he was a League One left back.
Again, I think under Sean Dyche, Mikalenko, I've said it, I think he's probably been one of our most improved players under Sean Dyche. So again, I was wrong, and I will admit when I'm wrong, but I think Mikalenko has grown into a really good left back. I remember going to Anfield in the derby, and he had Salah in his pocket the whole game. You didn't see Salah in the game. He had one of the best games in an Everton shirt against Mohamed Salah that day. So we got it, and I like Mikalenko.
Cool. Last thing then, John, just before we wrap up. It is the start of the season this week. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Brilliant. We've got an echo in the background, everyone. And Harriet is there in the background supporting John.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of the newer players that have come in. And again, I mentioned Ndiaye, and I've seen him that last week, and that excited me. And seeing Tim Abraham for the first time, I know we've seen him at Coventry and all that, but in the Premier League, and I'm worried though because I know I can't do the match preview with you tomorrow because we're taking the kids out for the day. But Brighton have won every pre-season game, and they beat Villarreal 4-0 last time out. And I know they're only friendlies, but listen, I wish we would have won all our friendlies, and it does breed confidence, and they look good, and Danny Welbeck scoring goals for them, so he's one you always have to watch. This is just my take on the game on Saturday. But the way Everton played against Roma for half an hour last Saturday, we can take that into the season against Brighton with the good football that we played and getting the new players on the ball, which will excite the crowd and get them off the seats and that, and get the crowd behind them. I think we'll have enough to beat Brighton, because I am excited to watch these new players on Saturday. I can't wait to get back to Goodison.
A goal for Calvert-Lewin against Roma will not have done him any harm playing against Brighton. It won't have done him any harm. And the other player that I think should start, and I'm sort of giving everyone a bit of a sneak peek into my preview here, but the other player that should start is Lilliman and Dye over Decore. Decore should be nowhere near the starting 11.
I don't know what's happened to Decore. We had a difference of opinion with him last season. I thought he was one of them players. When he doesn't play, you miss him. You know, when he was pushed near the forwards, and Calvert-Lewin looked off the pace when Doucouré wasn't there. Calvert-Lewin looked better when Doucouré was there last season, or in the middle of last season. But towards the end of it, on this pre-season, I just really don't know. I don't know whether he's had his head turned because there's been links to Saudi, or he feels pushed out because of the new players we've brought in, which is what we mentioned on here. But I'd have no problem with Calvert-Lewin being nowhere near that starting lineup on Saturday from what I've seen the last 3 or 4 games of the season just gone and in pre-season. Sorry, Doucouré.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, well, I'm happy to leave it there, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. John, have you got anything else to add?
No, nothing whatsoever. Also, do want to say is I'm not on here tomorrow, so if I do see you around the ground, come over, say hello. We'll have a pint, and it'll be good to see you again. First game of the season. Michael's not there because he's a part-timer, so I will be with my lad Frankie if you do want to come over and say hello.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, John's nailed it. I won't be at the game on Saturday. It's incredibly difficult to get tickets now, even with membership, which is quite great. However, John will be there, so if you want autographs, pictures, any memorabilia from the Blue Boys Network, John will be available to take all of your needs. Video recordings. One of the comments was about video recordings. John is more than happy to stand there singing to anyone you want to make you happy. So yeah, guys, all jokes aside, we love you. It's an exciting week, and I think it's only fitting that we get Frankie to end the video here, John, to be honest, with his up the toppies, his aggressive up the toppies, if you like to spot things. There we go. You see, we love it. Right, guys, I'll see you soon. Up the toppies. Peace.